Beloved heart, I invite you to sign up to my mailing list, and as a result of signing up, you will get a free gift. It's a 5D rebalance tune-up of all these chakras, and chakras are my specialty, so I would love to gift you with this transmission that is filled with light language and codes to help you stay balanced and tuned up during these increased frequencies of energy of this ascension, this new earth frequency. So check out the links in the notes of this show, and I look forward to connecting with you. I am sending you love. This is the transfiguration of the new you. Hello, beloved. I'm Monica Bermudez. I am the host for the podcast called Ascended Earth, the Transfiguration of the New Human. Welcome back to another episode. This episode is focused on quantum leap of faith and trust. The intention of this episode is to encourage your trust and faith in the ongoing changes of life. It's so frightening at times when our higher guidance, our heart calls for a change. So you go through these doubts and uncertainty for some period of time, and overanalyzing how or overanalyzing whether you heard correctly or not. This pressure is being felt a lot more with the new energies. So one thing I have noticed that when it comes from your soul or higher guidance, it will be repeated constantly, but in a gentle voice of suggestion, which is really guidance. It's not forceful, like you must or you have to type of energy. And I have been going through some major changes in my life, which is why I want to talk about this quantum leap of faith and trust, because I've undergone so much of that since the end of 2012, starting with the end of my marriage and the rebirth of my true soul aspect, which is very cosmic and starseed, and lots of soul contract activations at that time too. So things accelerated during COVID period of 2020 to 2022. In fact, it was right before COVID lockdown happened that I had launched and started to establish my energy business. So my business in relation to energy work. So in 2022, I received the guidance and confirmation of a new location to move to, since I had already been feeling the desire to move from my previous location, but it was uncertain as to the actual location we moved to. So within a year, my biggest change was moving from city life to mountain small town life in a highly intensified vortex power center on the planet. And I just knew with certainty this was my place. And what happened next was synchronicity after synchronicity. And everything kept falling into place. And I knew this was in alignment to my soul path and soul contract. It truly was magic to be able to get everything organized within a year of my decision to officially move. But it took me a while for my business, though. It took me a little longer to launch my current business because I was in so much doubt that I kept getting in the way. And part of it was due to my comfort zone and my current background in engineering and business. So part of me then wanted to go through all that energy and time to figure out what I needed to do to jump into a life of an energy practitioner. And like I said, I had already established myself in the corporate world with degrees, getting paid for my background and experience. So some of the questions I would ask my own council of spirit guides is, why would I want to work with energies as a business? And what could I possibly contribute if everybody else is already doing it? And on I went about this overanalyzing back and forth of arguments pretty much with them. So these were all patterns of doubts, patterns of excuses to stay where I was and not change to the next level of my life. So I grew up in mysticism and learning about energies, but I prefer to keep it hidden and behind the scenes. So I didn't really care to really come out in public and be talking about all of this. And so I'm no stranger to, all about energy work. I just didn't want to be out in public. And that was part of my basis of overanalyzing and arguing back and forth. And so, I was being called really to be more in the spotlight, to do public forums. And so I resisted that, being in the spotlight. But as I had mentioned before, there was a lot I needed to clear and heal in me in relation to public speaking, which was intertwined with speaking my truth. So the constant, the fear of this constant criticism from humans and others, the unkindness of people, fears that I had to confront with love and compassion in me, and which I did. But every time I would try to ignore the voices within my heart and my higher self, they kept getting stronger to the point that I could no longer ignore them. And they weren't forceful or pushy, but they were trying to get me on the path that I said I would help in this way when ascension got intensified, or at least prepare for the ascension that was coming, which is happening now. Since I was in doubt, my counsel suggested meeting with specific channelers to get confirmation, and I received several validations from others who would repeat the same information back to me that I was hearing for myself. But my guides were very specific as to which specific people I would go to, and they would be people who knew nothing about my life, knew nothing about information that I was receiving in that moment. So I took another quantum leap of faith and trust to meet with complete strangers. So it's okay to get certain validations with those you resonate with too. It can be a stranger, but you have to resonate with them to get certain validations or informations of what it is that you're receiving as well. And I once read in my business school on a table in a cafe shop that said, strangers become friends and friends become family. But also, again, be discerning in the energy of their intentions too. And I continue to take quantum leaps. So I eventually started my business with my own energy work and modality. And I am allowing guidance to keep coming from my higher self on next steps. And things kept accelerating from there into other quantum leap of trust and faith, into the portals of my best version timeline, or the one that is in alignment with my soul contract. And being such a reserved and quiet person, I didn't think I had much to say to others. I often wonder, how do speakers have so many words to say when they're speaking on stage or on a podcast show? And I looked at it with admiration. Since the launch of my podcast, I've had tons of downloads and words pouring out of me in every episode with powerful creative ideas for exercises and meditations. And just when I think I have nothing, the moment I hold a writing utensil or place my fingers on the keyboard of my laptop, or the moment I get on stage, words start to spill out of me. And I am at awe and wonder, where does all this come from? But it's really a channeling. And we have the ability to channel, and every channeler will be different with how they channel their information. Some are extra dimensional channelers, some interdimensional channelers, or just higher self channelers. But however you may channel, everything is interconnected within your heart's higher self. So just trust that it is so. I talked about human bloopers. These are trial and errors of lessons we come to learn. Not all lessons are based on trauma or suffering or pain. These lessons are learning our divine ability, like how to channel while still being human. So that being said, with practice improves this skill too. So constant and determined practice and practicing with others just for fun I have been doing mentorship with children who come from mystical backgrounds, just the same way that I grew up. I've been guiding them from my own human bloopers with the intention and hope they will avoid certain bloopers in life. My plan is to teach them on ideas to practice their psychic and intuitive abilities with others. And it's a method I did when I was little with my mystical childhood friends. So just having like my own little inner circle of practice. And so this is why my psychic and intuitive abilities have sharpened in time and it continues to improve. But it's all starting with your faith and trust on your inner guidance. Of course, it's important to discern if it is your ego or your higher voice guidance. Your higher guidance will repeat, but it can feel simple or logical sense or soul alignment where you have doors of synchronicities open up for you. Then you know that is for you in a higher guidance. When I first heard my initial calling of my next phase in life after the divorce, it was my ego that kept getting in the way of the flow of messages. Rather than accepting it, I resisted and disrupted the natural flow of information. I needed to clear my channel from other clutters of the past and tame this noisy ego. Once that happened, I stepped into my power and it made logical sense why I was being called in that way, and I accepted it. And since then, it has gotten easier. Although sometimes it's good to sit with the initial message in order to feel into it and make sure it is coming from your higher guidance, but not overdo it in overanalyzing it. Sometimes you just know right away. And sometimes when you get certain messages, you may know right away that this is for you. It's definitely for you. So my message to you is to take the quantum leap of faith and trust. Trust where the universe within your heart is taking you now. And this is the calling of your next phase in your life, aligning you to your highest vibrational timeline or the timeline that is in your best version. I or anybody else cannot decide for you. All I can do is be a guide, a cheerleader, and an encourager so that you embrace your new change. Are you also being called to move, to change jobs, to leave your job, or start a whole new modality? It's very scary, especially when you're used to doing so many things in a certain way for so many years or a long time. For instance, when you've been in a certain area or job for a long time, it turns into a comfort zone. And I understand about stability and so forth, but be careful not to fall into the traps of false illusions too. Comfort zones keep us from change, and it can delay our spiritual growth. Listen carefully to what I am about to say to you. You got out of your comfort zone from your star system in order to incarnate on Earth and experience human life, especially during this time. This is a remembrance activation, this statement that was just made. So take advantage of your human life now. And even if there are some bloopers along the way, that makes you an even more powerful master, such as the master of compassion. It could be a simple lesson on having compassion, even in tough situations that are ultra triggering. So if you still get triggered with someone constantly, pay attention to those emotional outbursts and reactions to situations and other people, because that is telling you where you need to bring closure and healing in you. And if you're in denial of this, then I can't help you because it is up to you to accept it or not. It's your choice. One of my greatest defeat in myself was the denial of the changes in my life. Once I removed the boulder of overthinking and overanalyzing from on my path, that was on my path, or I got out of the way of myself, the flow of energy turned into magic. And I mean, this is a continuous work in progress in us. But believe me, it gets to turn more into magic. Ascension is here. So let's make the most of these changing times by constantly tapping into your heart energy and listening for next steps in life. So I wish you well in your quantum leap of faith and trust. Catch you in another episode.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to click like, save, and share with others so they can also experience what you just experienced. And stay tuned for some more high vibe episodes. And I'll be connecting with you in the next quantum field. Sending you so much love.